morning, you guys. Today we're starting bright and early. It is a little before 9. Yeah, a couple minutes to 9. And it is another rainy day here, which is great for the garden, so I'm happy for it. We're gonna take advantage of it, hanging out inside today. It's supposed to thunderstorm and just be like super nasty, so we're not gonna have any breaks in the rain to get out and do anything today. So I wanna make some bread and a really nice like cheesy potato, ham, broccoli soup. We're gonna see what happens. It's towards the end of the month and I have to clean out my pantry and my fridge and get rid of whatever produce I have left before I go once more to grocery shopping in a couple days here. So we're gonna start with our bread here. My bread recipe is written down below. Super simple. It's the same bread recipe I use for literally everything. Donuts, bread, what else? Cinnamon rolls, like the cream cheese rolls that we made a couple weeks ago. All of that is the same. It's written down below. I've been using it since I think the pandemic. I haven't switched it. It's just really great. I like this bread recipe because it makes 2 loaves, and as a family of 6, 2 loaves is pretty much a necessity now if we want to have some for the leftover soup. With 2.5 tablespoons of yeast. I'm keeping my yeast in this little container in the fridge, and it's so much more convenient because I buy mine in bulk from Sam's Club, and it was falling out of the package and getting all over my fridge, and I was wasting a ton. So this has been a game changer if you're looking to buy yeast in bulk and kind of looking to find a way to store it. This has been really, really great. 2 tablespoons of sugar, a 2nd tablespoon. The recipe calls for 2 1/4 cup of water. The 4th cup goes in on top of your sugar or your honey and your yeast. All this sits and activates. I'm just gonna start pulling out our other ingredients, getting everything up so that it's easy to just dump in and get it mixing, and we'll be able to let this rise. The ingredients are pretty straightforward. Salt, some sort of either vegetable oil. I substitute olive oil. I've always done that. It turns out fine. The rest of our water and some flour. Super simple. This yeast is really fresh, so it's ready to go. So we're just gonna start dumping in our other ingredients, getting it mixed. Pretty simple and straightforward. I remember when I started making bread, it was really intimidating. It took me a really long time because I was unsure of the process and my steps. And now I can whip up a double batch of bread in probably a half an hour total time in the kitchen for myself. We're gonna add in 3 tablespoons of your oil of choice. I would definitely recommend using a mild olive oil if you're using olive oil. I've used like really a high quality olive oil and it made the bread taste really funky. About a teaspoon of salt. I like to give this a little bit of a mix. If I need to, I'll add in a little bit more water, but just to get at least that stuff mixed together, and then I'll add in our flour. Okay, so total this bread recipe calls for 5 to 6 cups of flour. It is always gonna be different every time you make it. It's a rainy day today, it's really humid, so I'm going to assume that I'm gonna need less water today because there's a lot of moisture in the air. 2, 3. Okay, I've got 3 cups of flour here. We're just gonna let this mix together, let the KitchenAid do some work for us.
I don't need a guide, follow lights, take me where I wanna visit. Are you alive? Or just breathing? Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCH, country limit. I don't need a guide, follow lights, take me where I wanna visit. Are you alive? Or just breathing? Flashing red lights, driving at night, windowless ride, feeling alive, nothing in sight, forever in flight, follow those lines, we'll make it this time, blurry street lights, work as a guide to memories that we're making tonight, oh yeah, we'll make it tonight, yeah.
Okay, our bread is actually looking really good, or our dough, at least it's coming together. I'm just gonna turn this up a little bit, and I'm gonna let this knead for a couple minutes while I put away, start picking up my mess, putting things back in the pantry, and making the most out of my time in the kitchen here.
Then I feel like I wanna do, I'm living life like I got nothing left.
a little bit of our olive oil, splash it in the bottom of this pan, or in the bottom of our bowl here from the KitchenAid. I'm just gonna kind of swirl this around a little bit, that way our dough doesn't stick. Rotate our bowl and our dough ball in that olive oil. It's gonna help it from drying out. Take our towel and we're gonna plop it just like this in the oven with our oven light on, and it's gonna proof and rise and do all the things that it needs to do while we finish cleaning up and prep the rest of dinner. I don't have a recipe that I'm following for tonight's soup. I think what I might do is loosely follow my like Panera copycat broccoli cheddar soup, but I want to add in potatoes because I have some potatoes I want to use up. I don't have any like cream or half and half or anything like that, so I'm just gonna use milk, dump in some cheese, and hopefully it'll be fine. We're gonna see what happens. But I have carrots, broccoli, these potatoes, and I also have some ham chunks. A couple of weeks ago we roasted that big ham. I'll link that video down below for you guys. We got the ham chunks in the freezer that we can throw in, and it'll just be really simple. And we're just gonna do 3 carrots. I might end up doing more. Carrots are like my kids' favorite thing that go in soups, so I typically will always add more carrots than what a recipe calls for. I also tend to leave them a little bit more chunky because my kids like them like that. What I'm going to add to my Dutch oven here are my root vegetables that are going to take longer to cook down than my broccoli. My broccoli's frozen, just bought from the store. Ran out of our broccoli from the garden, and we're not going to have broccoli coming in from the garden until probably August. So until then, it's store-bought broccoli. But because it's frozen, it's only going to take a couple minutes to cook down. So I'm going to add that towards the end. But these like carrots and potatoes and things, depending on how thickly, is that a word? How thick I cut them, is going to depend on how long it's going to take to break down. I'm only going to add a couple potatoes because it's the beginning of the week and I want to have a couple potatoes left for some other meals through the week. So I don't want to make the biggest batch of soup ever. So I'm going to try to restrain myself because I always make enough soup to feed the entire neighborhood.
I ain't going back, I'm not falling. I'll push all my chips and call all in. I'll bet on myself, you keep stalling. I hear destiny and it's calling. I'll keep my head up high through the downs and lows, and we're all going live. Still nobody knows, but I'ma choose what's right and take what comes and goes. And ain't no one in life holding me back no more. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.
Our bread is just gonna sit in the oven. It's in our loaf pans. I'm just gonna let that rise in the oven just like we did when we were proofing it. Let that sit for a couple hours, and once it's ready, we'll turn the oven on. We'll get both of those loaves baking. In our Dutch oven here are the potatoes, onions, and carrots that we prepped. I'm just gonna take this whole thing, put it right in the refrigerator. It is exactly 10 o'clock, so in about an hour of kitchen time is what it took. Not even a full hour, because I stopped, I fed the baby, got the baby down for a nap, cleaned up the kitchen, and sat and played with the kids for a little bit, watched a little bit of a movie. So in that full hour, I'd say I was probably in the kitchen like 15 minutes. We got 2 loaves of bread and dinner kind of prepped and ready to go. So I'm just gonna slide this in the fridge, and my time in the kitchen is done for the day until, of course, lunch and when it comes time to actually put the soup together. But it's gonna be really easy as well. Just dump some things in the pot and get it on the stove to cook. So we're gonna throw this in the fridge and we're gonna be done for the day. I have a break in the thunderstorm, so I'm going to run out, let the chickens out, give them food, water, do I need to do out there, grab eggs, and hopefully get back inside before it continues to downpour. Wish me luck. When it comes to make the soup, it's actually super simple. So all I'm going to do is throw in a dash of olive oil like we mentioned earlier. You just need a little bit of fat at the bottom so that the vegetables don't burn to the bottom of your Dutch oven or any pot that you're using. You could also use coconut oil if you wanted to. I like to use something like that versus like something like a butter just because it's a little bit lighter. But we're just going to roast our vegetables a little bit, kind of let them cook down and let them get soft. Once that happens, you can throw in your chicken broth here. I threw in about 2.5 cups of chicken broth. And you can throw in as much or as little as you want. Obviously less broth, it'll be thicker, more like a stew or a chowder. And then I just kind of let that cook down for a while before I added in the rest of the stuff. So in our soup here, I added in probably 1.5 cups, 2 cups of frozen broccoli, a couple handfuls of our frozen ham that we did together a couple weeks ago, and threw in probably about a cup of milk as well. And we're just gonna let this cook down, do its thing. Everything is done in here except my carrots. They're still a little stiff just because I left them really big, but that's how we really like them. So it's gonna take a little bit longer to cook. So all I'm going to do is kind of turn the heat down on this just a little bit. I'm gonna put the top on the Dutch oven here, let this go. I also put my bread back in my oven. I actually turned my oven on and then turned it off, put the bread back in there so that it could get warm again. And then the very last thing I did was just cut up a block of cheese. My kids came up and took a couple slices, so this is the rest of what I'm gonna throw in the cheese for our soup. And then we'll have our cheesy broccoli, potato, carrot, ham, kind of clean out the fridge, pantry, freezer soup. And our bread, this will make leftovers. We'll have some of this for tomorrow as well for lunches over the next couple of days. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with me in the kitchen. Thanks for spending a couple of rainy days with me, getting things taken care of around the house that we have been putting off for way too long, and then making a really delicious soup. I will catch you guys in the next one.